goes in there because you can't believe it. It sounds so far-fetched that they would do something like this.
Now, what you have done is you have developed a serious indictment against the court system here in Chicago.
Federal, state, probate, you name it.
From top to bottom.
That's right.
And this is not just hearsay information or evidence. You have brought in your book details.
That's right.
You brought transcripts.
That's right.
You brought photographs of the actual laws
all
in some
court
cases.
documented evidence.
And let me, right now, at this time, I'll just give everybody an opportunity to write down the title of this book so they can get over to the public library.
No, you can't get it.
Get over to the public library and check this book out. It's Death of the Justice System.
Right.
Okay? All righty. By Linda Achor. Okay, very good. Thank you. Linda, I want to start off by giving you an opportunity to tell us how you got involved in this research and how you got involved in this action.
By being a victim of the court system.
Tell us about that.
My husband got fired, and he got fired for stealing skirt steak. And
he was accused of it.
He was accused of it. And they turned around and tried to say, well, since I had a witness that, you know, he was fired this way. They turned around and they says, well, look, we'll give you unemployment and say you were laid off for lack of work. Just get out of here, you know. I said, fine. If you don't want me here, I'll leave, you know. But he wanted to clear his name. He wasn't going to be known as no thief.
Right.
After 10 years of service there, I mean, he used to actually, they used to have these pools. He'd have $30,000 of their money on him at any given time for baseball, football pools. And he's going to run off with skirt steak.
Never took a dime of the money.
No. I mean, he could say somebody mugged him or something, but he ain't going to take no skirt steak.
What was this organization's motivation to accuse your husband falsely of theft?
They wanted to get rid of him because he was making too much money per hour. And they could get 2 bartenders for the price of what they had to pay for him. Besides, they were doing dope and they had these crazy parties and stuff with people running around naked. And my husband's kind of a pill, you know what I mean? And he wouldn't get involved in that, you know? And he was like a party pooper, you know?
In other words, your husband was a liability.
Exactly.
To the organization.
And this guy that was the manager there, he was listening in on the phones and he was telling people what he was listening to. And I said, what is this? This guy's dangerous. You know what I mean? You can't be listening. So he's telling everybody, yeah, Saravich got machine guns, this and that. I mean, he's all proud of himself, you know. And my husband, we're not interested in that stuff. We're not blackmailers, you know. Let him say what he wants to say. But in the meantime, there was a manager there prior to this guy that was stealing meat, and he was selling it to a butcher. You read about it in my book. To where one of the members happened to be friends with this butcher, and he bumps into him, and he says, hey, I'm getting a real good deal at the Riverside Golf Club. I know the manager, he's selling me this meat for, you know, real cheap. And this guy's listening. He's one of the members having to pay for this. So he runs back there and tells him that this guy's selling our meat, you know. He happened to know different things about them. The fact that he claims that they burnt down their own club and got the insurance and stuff like this.
That's not the first time something like this has happened.
That's right. And so what they did, they had him red-handed. Not like my husband's the last one to have keys with skirt steak. This guy was making buka bucks, selling these meat, prime cuts. You know how meat that comes to restaurants says, you know.
Top quality.
Exactly. So he's been doing this for years. They had him red-handed. Did they prosecute him? No. They gave him a good recommendation and sent him to another country club in Georgia.
But in your husband's case, they insisted on having him admit to something that he did not do.
Exactly.
He refused to admit to stealing, which he did not do. And they fired him because he was making too much money. He had reached an age whereby they could call in bring in some younger people, pay them a fraction of what he earned.
Not to mention, he was in health insurance. He was getting older, and they weren't about to pay for any, you know, insurance on the man either.
So after he was unjustly fired from his job, you decided to seek the services of a lawyer.
Right.
Correct? And tell us what happened.
When we couldn't remedy the situation, and we found out that this is what their intent was. This wasn't a mistake or an accident. This was purposely done. When we realized that, it was, uh-oh, you know, we better get an attorney. Attorney. I can almost laugh saying that word now. There is no good attorneys. In fact, Gene Zork, he's one of the people in my book, he wrote to halt this organization. And they check out each attorney, and they tell you what are good ones, what are bad ones. Out of 73,000 attorneys, they gave him 2. And by the time he got those papers, they took 1 away from him. The other guy was an old man that got his license in prison. And he was about 52 years old when he finally did pass the bar. And he had dialysis trouble. So he was very sickly, you know. This is the pickings you had.
Well, tell us exactly why you feel there are practically very few, hardly any good attorneys. What happened in your experience to lead you to that conclusion?
Their loyalty is to the court, not to you. You know why they call them esquires, don't you?
Tell us.
Because they want a title, like in England.
Title
you know,
of
in the
nobility.
United States, titles are not allowed.
Titles of nobility.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, everybody knows a lawyer is a bum, the scum of the earth. Nobody has respect for him. You wouldn't put your walls out there with one next to you.
Well, you know, we've heard a whole lot of those real poignant negative lawyer jokes.
Lawyer jokes, yes.
And, you know, there's something to that. There's just too much of it.
Well, share
But
with
yet,
us
wait
what
a minute.
happened.
You slap a black robe on that sucker and sit him up there, and all of a sudden he's honorable.
He's a judge.
He's a judge then.
Now, this same judge, okay, is working with these lawyers, prosecutors, or what have you, and he's done the same thing that they had to do.
Well, bring us to the point where you began to understand that the corruption was very, very obvious.
Nothing made any sense. You see, the law is real simple. Real simple. It's right or wrong. It's it. It's making somebody whole again. It's not all this garbage that they're putting out there. This talking Latin. They only do this to drive you nuts because you can't understand what they're saying.
Okay, well, what happened in your specific case when you tried to get some justice through the court system by hiring a lawyer? What happened?
They have it in their mind. What? Say you're Oprah Winfrey. Hey, they ain't gonna offer you no 30 grand. You got high taste, but 30 grand, that's good enough for a bum bartender. I don't care if you already spent 40 on attorneys. You should have said a lot earlier than that.
So they attempted to
If
get
you
you to
don't
settle.
take that settlement, they got to cheat you. That's the way it is.
Okay.
And they do not give you any more money than what they say that they're going to give you, because that's all you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't go along with it, then they're going to have to cheat you, no matter how long of a length they have to go to.
So you refused to accept a settlement that you thought was ridiculously low.
Right.
And you were persistent in rejecting that.
That wasn't the only reason. The reason also was is that my husband still had a bad rap on us as a thief.
So you were trying to clear his record
Exactly.
up also.
And the lawyer finally got pissed at me, and he says, hey, look, they know your husband isn't a thief. He didn't steal the meat, okay? He said, they just don't want to go bankrupt, all right? I said, no, it ain't all right. I said, what are you, sticking up for these fools? And, see, they have political clout. And so what that gets them, in other words, it's just like what Skolnick wrote in the book about buying judgeships. What these corporations do, they put together a lot of money. It costs you millions to become a judge, more millions to become an appellate court judge. Now, do you think these corporations are doing this out of the kindness of their heart?
They're doing it because
they
have
want to own a
friend
judge?
in the right place.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all this discrimination comes in. What they're trying to do is just give a person a bone, send them on their way. If they don't do that, they're going to have to cheat you, and they'll go to any length to do it. They gave me a mock trial.
Now tell us what a mock trial is.
A mock trial is a trial where you ain't going to have no air conditioning. The woman's typing like an idiot with no machine plugged into the wall. I mean, when you're supposed to do something and you're not really doing it, you forget yourself. So all of a sudden you're sitting there, and the person's talking and you're not typing. The microphone runs the audio tape that goes into the machine. There was no microphone because there was no electric on. So there was no air conditioning. It was the hottest time of the year. I mean, people were just about fainting in there.
Tell us the reason that you wound up having what appeared to be
There's
a
a
trial,
good reason.
but was not a real trial.
Okay. Now look, at my husband,
Now this happened in the actual courthouse here in Chicago.
federal courthouse.
Okay.
They had a whole wing that the judges went on vacation. That's the wing they used. And then they had that lawyer, Brennan, one of the lawyers from the Riverside Golf Club, peeking out the door to try to see if anybody's coming, you know. The marquee had nothing on it. There was no bailiff, no donuts, no fan, no nothing.
So this was